Hello and welcome to a part two of my review of the Clarius L15 handheld ultrasound, HD3 ultrasound. Um, and this part two is to address some of the questions and comments to the part one of my review. And also in my part one, I was still subscribed. I still had a subscription to their services. And, most of my complaints, or a lot of my complaints, were about their cloud software, which is terrible and amateurish and seems like a student project for a course assignment. But I hadn't actually used the software too much because I hadn't been forced to, because I like to just take all my images straight to the cloud, write my reports there, annotate the images there on the big computer, on the big screen. That was sort of my workflow. But now that I don't have the subscription, now I have comments about how what's it like using this without a subscription. So I have some comments about that. I will also link a review and comparison with this Chinese handheld ultrasound. I have also recently finished my dream educational program for musculoskeletal ultrasound. So if you have someone looking for educational resources, like for using in practice, or if they plan to write, for example, the RMSK exam, I think my educational resources can't be beat, but I might be a little bit biased. Anyway, on to this part two review. And I'm going to start with, I haven't turned this on recently. I've been trying to use this as much as possible because I know every once in a while, you would think if you don't not subscribed, everything would go smoothly. But that's not the case, because it still regularly asks, can you connect me to the internet? Can I need to check your subscription status? I need to check your subscription status. Oh, you can't use me right now. I need to do a firmware update. And so particularly if I haven't used it in a while, I'm like, I know it's not going to be quick. It's not going to be 30 seconds and I'll be scanning. I know it'll be, who knows how long it'll be. Let's see what happens when I try to open the Clarius app. I haven't used this in probably a few months now. I've been using my other ultrasound instead, so let's see what happens. Okay, opens, and I'm curious whether it's going to, okay, what probes up is disabled during scanning. I'm pretty sure I had this. What? I already had this set up. Why is it making me go through configuration again? I did this. Is this? I had this configured the way I wanted. I had all the settings set up. Membership has expired. Okay, dismiss. And it'll do that. It was doing that every time. What else here? Let's go to one of the old scans. Certificates have expired. This is always going to take up space at the front all the time. Connecting to the source scanner use. So this is what I suspected would happen. If you don't use it in a while, you'll turn it on and you'll need to use it, and then certificates have expired. You better connect to the internet, or else you can't use your scanner. And I typically don't connect these to the internet. If I want images, I physically connect this to a wire, and I take the images off. Now that I don't use the cloud storage, there's no reason for this to ever connect to the internet. There's no need for it to get updates. There's none of that. It only causes problems. Updates only cause problems. Updates only cause firmware changes. It's a big headache. So now if I wanted to work on a patient, I'd be like, okay, no, I need to find what's the Wi-Fi password, I need to connect to the internet, and that's what happened. That happened to me where it's like, okay, I need to take a picture, I need the Clarius, and couldn't. I was like, I had to go to the front desk, okay, what's the password for Wi-Fi? Because I need to connect to this just to get this to work, and in the end I ran out of time and we never ended up taking pictures because of this. It's totally bullshit. And if we go to exams, this is one of the things I wanted to point out before. Is I've been using the cloud software, and the cloud software has its problems, as I said in my other review. But this software has its own problems because I've had to use it more now that I don't have the subscription. So let's say I want let's say I want into this. No, maybe I want into this. I want in. I want to see all the pictures. Okay, this one let me in for some reason. What about this one? Will you let me in? Will you let me in? Let me in. Let me in. Why won't you let me in? Let me in. Why won't you let me in? Let me in. Why won't you let me in? I want to see the pictures. Let me in. Okay, now I've selected some. I just want... Just let me into any of them. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. Okay, let me in. Okay. Okay. So here's a Cineclip. Can I pause? Can I scroll through the Cineclip? Nope. Can't scroll through the Cineclip. You have to do that when it's live. So what I've had to do is I've had to screen record and then in the video go frame by frame to find what I need in the Cineclip. Because you can play a Cineclip, but you can't look at the individual frames. You can't slow it down. It's basically like again, I can't. You hit pause and brings you back to the beginning. It almost defeats the purpose of the Cineclip. Going frame by frame to find something. This is just so frustrating. Okay, here's me on the internet. Sign out and sign back in again. Now they have connected to the internet. Okay. Let's see what it makes me do. Is it going to have to firmware update? Who knows? Session expired. Okay, whatever. Yes, yes. Not dismiss. Connecting internet. I just connected to the internet. Refresh. Okay, now can I actually use this now? Okay, needs location permissions. I already granted it before. Fine, grant permissions again. Okay. Bluetooth on. Bluetooth is on. Okay. Okay. How much do you want to bet it needs to do some sort of update? Yeah, scanner software must be updated prior to using the scanner. Okay, let's do it. Update. If I was waiting for a patient. Software update is being uploaded to the scanner. Why forced? Why force this? Why force this? Waiting. How long is this going to take? I don't know. This is why I don't grab this. This is why I don't grab this transducer. This is why I grab this whenever I can, because I just open the software, turn it on, and it works. It works every time. It doesn't need internet connection. It doesn't need updates. It works. It works. It just works. Sadly, the Clarius is the better one. If I can't make a diagnosis with the cheap Chinese one, I still need to grab the Clarius. But I hate it. I hate it so much. Okay, well, Brandon is trying to get the ultrasound to work and trying to get the updates to work. Who knows how long that's going to take. Maybe I'll add in some more comments. Now, one of the things you lose when you lose the subscription is not only do you lose the ability to export to a PAX and export to the cloud, but you lose the ability to save images. You lose the ability to save images. You cannot save pictures. You heard me correctly. You cannot save the images, which is often a legal requirement, or medical legal requirement. You have to save evidence that you did an ultrasound, particularly if you want to bill for ultrasound. You require those images. and for them to take that away. Now I say take away because this makes me shaking angry, because when I bought this unit, that was considered one of the standard features, baseline features, that you could save the images to locally as whatever it was, JPEGs, and you can save the Cineclips, and that's standard. And the subscription gave you all the bonus stuff. Now they removed that feature, and now saving images locally, like to your machine, is now a subscription feature. So they've removed that feature. Now I've gone around it because you just screenshot. If you have a Cineclip, you play the Cineclip as your screen recording, so you have a video of that. So there are ways of getting around it, and then of course I bring everything to the computer, and then I can cut around, maybe crop. It's just not ideal. It's just not ideal. I can't believe they removed that basic feature. Isn't that crazy? Other things are you lose all of the special presets. For example, plantar fascia, or the plantar preset, the shoulder preset, the wrist preset. You're just stuck with the MSK preset. And I will say the MSK preset is good enough. I do miss the other presets though, because something like the plantar fascia, it's sometimes difficult to see the plantar fascia, at the medial tubercle, and you want to measure that thickness. And the preset did help for that. And I don't like how everything is sort of auto on this, which is different for example, this Chinese one where you actually have control over the frequency. I'd like control over the frequency. I'd like control over the depth. I'd like control over the focus points instead of just auto everything. Now, yes, there's a TGC setting somewhere. You can change the gain. The focus is going to be somewhere in the middle, but I just wish you had more control, because you're sort of stuck with the preset, the one preset you get. And if that isn't, like, I'm always curious, am I missing a diagnosis because I'm not paying for the subscription? Now, one of the reasons why I don't want to use this is because they also removed the ability for split screen, and I love split screen because some people's anatomy looks so strange and it can be normal. Or even just showing the patient, okay, here's what's going on. Let me put that side by side with your other knee, your other finger, so it helps me explain to the patient. Like, I consider that a basic function. I message them, can I please just buy split screen? Can I just buy split screen? I'll pay $1,000 for split screen. They never got back to me. So my last 3 or 4 messages to them, and I'm sure 1 or 2 of them were very angry. I get angry. I have 5 minutes left in the session. Someone brings, I do have this elbow pain. Do you think we can check that out? I have 5 minutes. Oh no, mandatory update. You can't put it off. Waste time. It's just a waste of time, and I'll send an angry email about that. Why? This is a medical equipment, and you don't want your medical equipment to say, nope, you can't use me now. I'm busy. I don't want you to use me until I have had all my updates. It's just... And as you've seen me complain, the software, not just the cloud software, which I commented on in part 1 of this review, but the software here, actually clicking on a patient to open it up, sometimes doesn't work. So I'll want to open up a patient. Let's say you scan multiple patients that day, and okay, now you have to do all those screenshots to then upload later. And sometimes I'll be sitting there for minutes, so frustrated. Please, I want to go home. Please, just open. And it just won't. It's buggy. And Cineclips, the important part of a Cineclip is going frame by frame. So you want to go frame by frame to catch that pathology, to make sure you didn't miss something. That's one of the great things about a Cineclip. I'll just scan through, in two planes, just so I can go through later. Just look at it maybe with fresh eyes. And the one thing with the Cineclip with the tablet software is that you can't. You can't. Of course, if you screen record and record the screen of the Cineclip plane, then you can use that recording to go frame by frame. But you shouldn't have to do that. For comparison, let's look up startup time to start scanning with this. Okay, so I'm not connected to this or anything. Let's open the app. I open the app. I'm going to hit the power button. I'm then going to, I open the app. I'm not going to connect to Clarius. I'm going to connect to this. And okay, I'm connected. I go back. And I'm scanning. It's ready to go. I'll link to a review of this. It isn't as good as this for musculoskeletal. It isn't. But maybe because I have a lot of experience, I feel I can get away with using this even though the images aren't as good. I feel like if I started out on this, I would have been lost and have trouble, identifying structures a lot more, because it is more difficult to use this than this, because it has lower resolution, lower frame rates, and no compound imaging, basically. Although I do have curvilinear, so I could do abdomen and EFAST exams and emergency exams too, which and maybe more hip on someone who with a little bit more adiposity. But I'll link a review of this as well. I think it might be useful to go through this article here, which compares 6 handheld ultrasound devices, and this is done by point-of-care ultrasound experts. So the focus of this was not musculoskeletal, which is my specialty. The focus of this is like cardiac views, lung views, abdominal views. So isn't what I'd be doing on a day-to-day basis. So for musculoskeletal purposes, how these units would compare may be different. But not everyone watching this review is buying an ultrasound for musculoskeletal or just musculoskeletal. So going through this, I think, is useful, and I'll include a link to this paper in the description. So what's great about this paper is that they have some nice sort of summary graphs, and they ask people, how much do you like this? How much do you like that? And then they what about image quality, ease of use, all sorts of different ways. And they also rated each individual view. And if we sort of get down to sort of the summary, and I like this table here. So we have ease of use on this axis, and we have image quality on this axis. And so image quality, Butterfly is terrible. Then we have Clarius, Cosmos, Lumify, Mindray, and the Vscan Air. That's by GE. And actually, I've heard good things about the Vscan Air. But although some chiropractors and physiotherapists have had a hard time buying them. In fact, I had to get involved saying, hey, we're allowed to take images, don't not let people buy it. Let us buy it. They were actually saying, no, you're not allowed to buy it. You're not an MD. MDs only. Well, musculoskeletal ultrasound is used by physiotherapists and chiropractors. So anyway, in the end, my student was able to buy a Vscan Air. And it's okay. Again, not as high resolution as you can get with Clarius, though. Because won't go as high frequency. But ease of use. Again, Clarius, lowest for ease of use. This one, satisfied, neutral, dissatisfied. So most people were satisfied with the Vscan Air. Where's the Clarius? Second worst. Right? Very few people were satisfied. Most people, it's okay. And even some people dissatisfied. Definitely don't buy a Butterfly. Again, here they were ranking them best to worst. Clarius was sort of the second worst. That makes sense. And Vscan Air was the best. Lumify is by Philips. And so, okay, we can keep on going. And this is, which one would you buy? Which one would you choose to carry as a point-of-care ultrasound expert? And so someone actually chose even having a Butterfly over the Clarius. Now, and again, this is point-of-care experts. A lot of these probes are good for multiple types of scans. And in this study, they had to have 2 Clarius transducers. They needed to have a curvilinear and a linear transducer, so that they would have to carry 2 instead of 1. Where they only need to carry, for example, the Vscan Air is a double-sided probe, similar to my Chinese probe where I have 2 probes in one. So that's probably another reason why they would choose to carry this in their pocket over something like the Clarius, where they would need to carry 2. They also have a summary here of sort of advantages and disadvantages for each. You can look at the Clarius. Good image quality is some of its advantages, and then disadvantages. Large probe. does get very hot. Poor image quality, even someone said, and multiple probes needed, someone said. Okay. So thank you for listening to the part 2 of my rant. Again, I have an ultrasound, musculoskeletal ultrasound educational program if you know anyone interested. And I will link to a review and a comparison with this Chinese ultrasound.